Welcome to Deep Sleep Stories. My name is Matt. I know this podcast is quite new, but some of you have been following along for a while now. As you may have noticed, the narrator has changed a couple of times already in just a few months. The truth is, the podcast has been growing extremely slow, and basically nobody has left us any reviews so far. I'm here as the new voice of the podcast and would love to stick around, but I need your support to do so. Please, if you enjoy our content, it would mean so much to us if you could just leave us a review on whichever podcast platform you use. Now, take a deep breath and let's begin tonight's story.
Welcome to Deep Sleep Stories. As you settle in, let your body grow heavy and quiet, knowing that tonight you'll be drifting into a peaceful mountain forest where gentle snowflakes fall over tall, whispering pines. Take a slow breath in, letting cool, imaginary mountain air fill your lungs, and exhale softly, allowing the weight of the day to melt away. Your shoulders loosen, your jaw unclenches, and your hands rest easily where they are. Feel the support beneath you, holding you completely. There is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to go. The world outside your room can wait. For now, this is your only task: to rest, to soften, to drift. Let your breathing find a calm, unhurried rhythm, like a slow tide moving in and out. With each inhale, imagine the crisp scent of winter pine, clean and bright. With each exhale, let go of any little worries still clinging to the edges of your thoughts, as if they were tiny, loose snowflakes blowing away on a gentle breeze. Notice how your body responds when you simply give it permission to relax. Your legs loosen, your arms grow warm and heavy, your chest rises and falls with effortlessness. You imagine yourself wrapped in something soft and warm, a favorite blanket or a cozy coat as you stand at the edge of a snowy world. Before you lies a quiet mountain valley where the snow glows faintly in the twilight and the tall pines stand like guardians, cloaked in shimmering white. In this story, you'll wander deeper into that valley, following a meandering path through the forest, guided by the slow, steady fall of snow and the comforting hush of winter. Take one more slow breath in and sigh it out. Allow your attention to drift gently away from this room and toward that distant mountainside where night is falling and the world is soft and silent. Somewhere far from busy roads and bright city lights, in a high valley tucked between old mountains, a traveler moved slowly along a narrow path of snow. Their name was Elian, and they had come to these mountains seeking quiet, though even they did not fully understand what had pulled them here. It was as if something in the hush of winter had been calling, soft and persistent, asking them to listen. The sky above the valley was a deep, velvety blue, slowly darkening as evening unfolded. High, pale clouds drifted like wisps of breath across the heavens, and beneath them, gentle snowflakes began to fall. They came in no hurry at all, floating downward like tiny, weightless lanterns. Some landed on Elian's coat and hat, others melted as soon as they touched the warmth of skin, and many more found their places on the branches of the tall mountain pines that flanked the path. The pines themselves seemed to lean in close, their boughs heavy with snow, forming archways over the trail. The forest was filled with a hushed stillness, broken only by the soft crunch of Elian's boots in the fresh powder and the delicate hiss of snowflakes settling on snow. Somewhere far off, an unseen stream murmured beneath a shell of ice, a low and soothing sound, like distant whispering. Elian walked without rush, each step deliberate and calm. There was a soft scarf around their neck, and their breath puffed gently into the air, forming small clouds that quickly faded. Every exhale felt like a quiet offering to the cold evening, while every inhale brought the crisp scent of pine needles and winter air. The forest around them was not empty. It was quietly alive, as if the trees, the snow, and the sky were all breathing together slowly and peacefully. Here and there, the traveler paused to simply stand still and listen. During these pauses, they could hear the gentle patter of snow landing on branches and the slightest rustle of needles shifting under the growing weight. When the wind stirred, it moved softly through the trees, creating a low, melodic sigh, like the sound of a lullaby hummed from very far away. As the light dimmed, the world around Elian seemed to soften. Edges blurred, colors grew richer, and the snow took on a faint blue glow, reflecting the sky above. The path wound deeper into the forest, curving around clusters of pines whose trunks rose tall and straight, disappearing into the dark canopy overhead. Between the tree trunks there were glimpses of the valley beyond. Gentle slopes of snow, a frozen stream that gleamed faintly, and the silhouettes of more distant trees fading into the falling flakes. Though the air was cold, it carried no bite. Instead, it felt clean and invigorating, a kind of cold that made cheeks glow and lungs feel open and clear. Elian's steps grew slower, not from weariness, but from the natural, easy pace that the forest seemed to suggest. There was no schedule in this place, no urgency, only the steady drift of snow and the unhurried turning of the evening sky. After a time, the path opened up into a small clearing hidden deep among the pines. The snow here was nearly untouched, save for a few delicate tracks made by forest creatures who had passed through earlier. Elian stood at the edge of the clearing, watching the snowflakes fall through the open air, each one glinting faintly as it caught the last traces of light left in the sky. On one side of the clearing stood an especially tall pine tree, its trunk wide and sturdy, its branches spread like the arms of a guardian stretching outward to shelter the space below. At its base, a low, flat rock jutted out of the snow, creating a natural bench. Elian brushed a gentle, sweeping arc across the stone with their glove, clearing a place to sit. Settled there, with their back resting lightly against the pine's trunk, the traveler listened. Now that they were still, the sounds of the forest rose softly around them like the faint swell of a peaceful choir. The murmur of the hidden stream, the quiet whisper of the wind threading its way through distant branches, the tiny, almost silence of snowflakes landing on snow. Everything blended into a single tranquil sound. As Elian watched, the falling snow seemed to slow even further. Each flake descended with such grace that time itself felt as if it had become gentle and unhurried. Some flakes landed on the pine needles above and lingered there, catching on the green tips before joining the soft layers below. Others drifted sideways on a small breeze, curling and looping lazily through the cold air. Gradually, the first stars began to appear overhead, faint at first, like shy eyes, peeking through the darkening veil of sky. The forest took on a silvered quality as the snow on the ground reflected what little light there was, creating a quiet glow that seemed to rise from the earth itself. Elian felt a sense of deep stillness wash over them, like a blanket being gently laid across their shoulders. The longer they sat, the more the forest around them felt almost aware. A small, rustling sound near the edge of the clearing drew their eye. A tiny shape moved slowly across the snow, leaving a delicate trail of footprints behind. It was a little fox with a thick winter coat, its fur a soft blend of pale and warm tones, its ears pricked, its eyes bright but calm. The fox paused, looking toward Elian with quiet curiosity. There was no fear in its gaze, only a calm, assessing intelligence, as if it recognized that the traveler, too, had come here seeking peace for a few breaths. They regarded one another in silence, connected by the shared stillness of the snowy evening. Then, with an almost polite flick of its tail, the fox turned and continued on its way, weaving between the trees and disappearing into the deeper dark of the forest. Elian watched until the last glimpse of its movement vanished, and then let their eyes drift closed, savoring the sense of belonging that the brief encounter had left behind. When Elian opened their eyes again, the sky had grown darker and more stars had appeared, scattered across the heavens like distant lanterns. The snowflakes continued to fall, but now they glowed subtly in the starlight, each one a tiny spark of quiet beauty. The pines stood tall and unshaken, their silhouettes softened by the snow piled on their branches. From where Elian sat, the forest seemed to hum with an unspoken promise that here, in this hidden mountain valley, the world moved at a gentler pace. Days and nights flowed into each other like slow, winding streams. Seasons turned softly, without hurry, and anyone who came here with an open heart could rest in the embrace of the trees and the snow, leaving behind the noise and weight of places where time felt rushed and crowded. Feeling for a small lantern in their pack, Elian brought it out and lit the wick. A warm, golden glow blossomed, surrounding the rock and the base of the pine in a ring of gentle light. The flame inside the lantern flickered steadily, its small movements soothing and hypnotic. The light spilled across the snow in soft circles, mingling with the bluish glow of the starlit forest. In the halo of that lantern's light, Elian took out a simple journal and a pencil. They did not write much, only a few quiet lines about the sound of snow, the sight of the fox, the way the air felt as it moved through the branches. Each word came slowly, deliberately, like the snowflakes themselves. They were not trying to create anything grand. They were simply noticing and gently setting those observations down. After a time, the journal was closed again, tucked away carefully. Ellie curled their hands around the lantern, feeling the faint warmth radiating from within, the tiredness they had carried with them into the forest, the deep, old fatigue of too many days spent in busy places began to loosen. It uncurled from around their heart and mind, like an old knot that had finally been given time to untangle. The clearing, the tree, the snow, the distant stream, all of it wrapped around the traveler like a calm embrace. In the stillness, a kind of quiet understanding floated up from within the forest itself. That rest is not something to be earned through strain or effort, but something to be received gently when one is ready. The snow did not demand anything of the trees. It simply fell softly, covering them in a shimmering protective layer. The trees did not strain toward the sky. They simply grew patiently, season after season. In that same way, Elian began to let go of the idea that they needed to think or solve or decide anything at all in this moment. It was enough just to be here, breathing calmly, watching snowflakes drift through the lamplight. Eventually, the traveler rose from the rock and lifted the lantern, its light swaying gently at their side. They stepped back onto the path, feeling the soft give of the snow under their boots. The pine tree behind them seemed to nod in farewell, its branches shifting slightly as a whisper of wind passed through. The path continued onward deeper into the forest, but it no longer felt unknown or vast. It felt friendly, familiar, as if the forest itself were quietly guiding Elian toward a place prepared especially for them. The snowflakes fell in a slow, steady curtain, their hush filling the air with a sense of serenity. As they walked, the trees parted slightly, revealing a small wooden cabin nestled beneath a cluster of towering pines. Thin plumes of smoke rose from a stone chimney, curling upward into the star-sprinkled sky. Warm light glowed faintly from the single window, spilling onto the snow outside in a soft, golden rectangle. Elian paused for a moment just to take in the sight. The cabin seemed to rest comfortably in its clearing, as if it had grown there like another tree. Its wooden walls were dusted with snow, and its roof wore a thick, insulated blanket of white. The small porch in front was simple and sturdy, with a wooden bench along one side where someone might sit in warmer seasons to listen to the forest. Drawing closer, Elian felt the faint warmth emanating from the cabin even before they stepped inside. The air just outside the door seemed slightly softer, touched by the heat that seeped through the wood. With a quiet lift of the latch, they opened the door, and a wave of cozy air greeted them, filled with the scent of wood smoke, pine resin, and something subtly sweet, like dried herbs or distant vanilla. Inside, the cabin was small but perfectly welcoming. A simple hearth flickered with a comforting fire, its flames dancing behind a protective grate. The walls were lined with shelves that held a few books, some old maps, and small wooden carvings of animals that lived in the forest outside. A woven rug lay across the floor, its colors muted by time, but still warm and inviting. Near the hearth, a low table held a teapot and a single mug. The pot was still steaming faintly, suggesting that not long ago, someone had boiled water and prepared tea. Yet the cabin was empty. Perhaps it belonged to the forest itself, or perhaps it was one of those rare places that existed simply when someone needed it, appearing just in time to offer shelter. Elian set the lantern down near the door and closed it gently behind them. Removing their gloves, scarf, and coat, they felt the warmth wrap itself around their chilled fingers and cheeks. The heat from the fire was steady and reassuring, sinking into muscles and bones that hadn't realized how tired they were. They poured themselves a mug of the waiting tea. The scent that rose from it was soothing, a blend of herbs gathered from the mountainsides in gentler seasons. The steam warmed their face as they lifted the mug, and the first sip brought a wave of quiet comfort that spread outward through their chest, into their shoulders, down their arms. The traveler sat in a cushioned chair beside the hearth, cradling the mug between both hands. From the cabin window, they could see the silhouettes of the mountain pines just outside, their branches bowed under sparkling snow. Beyond them, the snowflakes still fell, illuminated here and there by the faint light from within the cabin. It was as if the forest were breathing right outside the glass, content and untroubled. Time within the cabin flowed more slowly than it did elsewhere. The fire crackled softly, sometimes releasing a little cascade of sparks behind the grate that settled almost instantly. The tea cooled gradually as Elian sipped it, each sip another gentle step toward deeper relaxation. Their eyelids grew a bit heavier. Their shoulders sank more deeply into the softness of the chair. The world outside, with all its noise and rush and expectation, seemed unimaginably far away now. Here, there were only the sounds of logs shifting as they burned, the soft whisper of wind curling around the cabin walls, and the faint, continuous hush of snow landing on the roof and the pines. Elian let their eyes close for a moment as they held the warm mug. In the darkness behind their eyelids, they imagined the snowflakes drifting over the mountain pines, each one unique and delicate, yet together forming a blanket that brought quiet and rest to the forest. Under that snow, seeds slept, roots rested, animals curled comfortably in their winter dens. Everything was gentle, patient, unhurried. The traveler's breathing slowed to match that calm rhythm. Inhale like the rise of the wind through the trees, exhale like the soft settling of snow. The tea, nearly finished now, warmed them from the inside as the fire warmed them from the outside. All that remained was to lean into the comfort of the moment, to allow rest to deepen. The cabin seemed to sense this. The fire flowed into a steadier, more even glow, and the shadows on the walls grew softer, less distinct. The air felt thick with quiet, but not an empty quiet, a full, nurturing silence, like the hush of a kind voice saying, "You can rest now. It is safe to let go." In a small alcove not far from the hearth, there was a bed made up with a thick quilt and soft pillows. The quilt was patterned with simple shapes that echoed the forest outside, triangles that suggested mountains, lines that recalled the shapes of pines, curves that hinted at flowing streams. The colors were muted greens, blues, and gentle browns, all of them softened by time and use. Elian finished the last of the tea and set the mug gently on the table. They rose slowly, feeling no urgency in their movements, only a sense of drifting naturally from one soft moment to the next, step by step. They crossed the small cabin to the bed and sat on its edge, feeling the give of the mattress, the welcoming softness of the quilt beneath their fingertips. They eased themselves down, pulling the quilt up and around their shoulders, cocooned in warmth. The pillow cradled the back of their head, supporting it as if it had been shaped for them alone. Through the cabin window, they could still see the faint outline of the pines, swaying slightly in the night breeze, snow continuing to fall over their branches in gentle, unending patterns. Their eyes moved slowly from the window to the flickering firelight, and then, little by little, closed. As they lay there, the sounds of the cabin and the forest wrapped around them like a lullaby. The quiet crackle of the fire, the soft, intermittent sighs of the wind, the muffled hush of snow on the roof. Their breathing matched these sounds, calm and steady. In that tranquil mountain valley, under the watchful pines and the falling snow, the traveler drifted deeper into rest. Thoughts that had once chased one another in quick, restless circles now moved more slowly, like flakes of snow swirling gently in the air before they landed. One by one, those thoughts settled, finding peaceful places to rest until there was only the softness of the present moment. Outside, the forest continued its own quiet dreaming. The little fox curled deeper into its burrow, tail wrapped around its nose, breathing slow and even. The stream beneath the ice sang a muted, contented song. The stars wheeled slowly overhead, their distant light glinting off the snow-covered peaks of the mountains. Within the cabin, the warmth held steady, embracing the sleeping figure beneath the quilt. The lantern by the door dimmed a little, its flame small but steadfast. The night grew deeper, but never threatening, only calm, vast, and protective. As you rest where you are, you can imagine yourself in that quiet cabin as well, lying beneath that quilt, listening to the same gentle sounds. Let your own breathing match the slow rhythm of the traveler's breath, and the forest's breath, and the hush of the falling snow. With every exhale, you sink a little more into comfort. With every inhale, you draw in peace. There is nothing required of you now. No decisions to make, no tasks to complete. Only the soft drift of your thoughts, like snowflakes, drifting down through the branches of the pines. If any small worry appears at the edge of your mind, you can watch it float away on a gentle breeze, growing lighter and lighter until it dissolves into the quiet night. Feel your body as it grows heavier, more relaxed, perfectly at ease. Your hands and feet are warm and calm. Your chest rises and falls without effort. Your mind grows quieter, softer, like the forest under its blanket of snow. Outside your imagined cabin, gentle snowflakes continue to fall over the mountain pines, each one a tiny gift of stillness. Inside, you are safe and warm, held by the hush of the night. The story can fade now into a pleasant blur, its edges softening like snow under the first light of morning, leaving only comfort behind. Allow yourself to drift, to float, to slip into the deepest layers of rest. The forest will keep watch. The pines will stand guard. The snow will continue its gentle dance. Good night, dear traveler. Sleep well.